Good morning, Winchester Public Library. Jennifer Garner just started a live video at the same time that I did, and so it's not going to hurt my feelings if you jump over there to watch her live video instead of mine, because she's a lot of fun. Happy Monday. I am here at the library this morning for a shorter talk today. Not as much to chat about. Feeling myself again in a bit of a reading rut, like I was sort of at the beginning of being quarantined and isolated socially from many people and my job, and not as focused on reading. I guess that's going to come and go a little bit. I hope you're all doing well in reading. If you're there and you'd like to stick a little comment in the comment section and let me know what you're reading, I would love to hear it. I think we're seeing that a lot of people are watching this video after the fact on Facebook when it posts, or on YouTube. So we may in the future move this book chat to pre-recorded format and then post it onto the Facebook page directly. We're talking about that and maybe shortening it a little bit and just having like a check-in, some topics, variety of topics. Today's quick chat about books on our All Booked live stream is about spoilers and how you feel about spoilers in books. It's just an interesting topic because I think now that we're in a world of social media where you really can't miss anything, almost even if you try, when you're trying to stay away from things like the end of a movie or a football game score, it's really difficult to do that. You almost have to not pick up your phone until you're ready to know, not open a newspaper, not read a Twitter feed, not check your Facebook page. I'm very anti-spoiler. I'm so anti-spoiler that I find myself getting very stressed out when I try to describe a book to someone because I'm so afraid of giving away a little bit of the book that will spoil it for them, that I end up just kind of mumbling about what the book is about. Sometimes I will just say, you have to trust me. If I love this book, I know you're going to love this book. If it's a friend of mine, like I have one friend Susan, who's not watching today. I know she's doing something else, but we have very, very similar reading interests. And I know that if I love a book, she's going to probably feel pretty great about it, and vice versa. I don't really need to know what the book is about. Yesterday I was reading the newspaper and there was an article about the 80th anniversary of the film Rebecca, which was based on a book by Daphne du Maurier. And the article was about the score of the movie. It was an Alfred Hitchcock film and the score was beautiful, and I've never seen the movie. But I've also never read the book, and it is also the book that I am about to start. So as soon as I saw what the title was about, I skimmed the first paragraph, and then they got to the plot of the book. And I have a very vague idea of what it's about. It's about a woman, a young unnamed woman who marries a widower and moves into his home, which is then haunted by the ghost of his first wife, who is dead. I don't really want to know any more than that, so I didn't read the article about the score. And that's kind of strange because I don't think the article was going to give away any big secret plot points. The book is 82 years old. It's amazing that I don't know what it's about, given that it's been around forever. It's a book that has never gone out of publication. It's been adapted for film and television and radio and the stage and opera, amazingly. There's a 2020 movie coming out on Netflix soon at some point, the latest adaptation. So I really, really need to read this book. But why am I so averse to learning little tidbits about it? Well, as it turns out, there are some reasons that we feel strongly about spoilers. And I will talk first about why some people love them and swear by them, and why some might avoid them, and whether or not knowing a spoiler is actually a bad thing and can ruin your reading experience or your watching experience if you're talking about TV shows or movies. Why do we love spoilers? Well, one of the reasons we love spoilers is we have developed a habit of finding them out before we finish a book or start a book or a movie. It's sort of ingrained in us at this point to realize that we can't avoid them. If you're a Game of Thrones fan and you read Twitter the morning after the last episode of Game of Thrones, you're bound to find out something. And once you start paying attention to spoilers in a show that you love or movies that you love, it's easy to just have it be habit forming to get into wanting to know the spoilers before you go on to know the story. The second reason we love spoilers is that we're not as concerned about the result of the book as we are about enjoying the journey of the book. So knowing the end or knowing a plot twist doesn't necessarily take away from our enjoyment of how the story unfolds. And I find this to be true. The important part is the process of reading the story or watching the film or TV show. Here we're mostly talking about books, but I think it works for all things, even sports actually. I think that you can know the final score of a game, but it's watching the plays that make it fun. If you really only are caring if your team wins or loses, then you probably just maybe don't even watch, you just look at the scores. There's something comforting in knowing how a book ends. Some people feel better when they know how a book is going to turn out. It's especially true in a genre like horror, where it can be frightening or cause a lot of anxiety when you're reading. If you know how it ends or you know a couple of plot points along the way, it can feel a lot less stressful to do the reading. And so it's just for the ease of reading and being comfortable with the story, it can be okay to know a spoiler. And finally, and a big one, is knowing spoilers can often add to our comprehension of a book. When we know how something turns out, or we know something that we have to look for, we often will pay more attention along the way to how the story unfolds. We will be on the lookout for certain plot things. We might not miss some signs that we might have missed if we were just focusing on getting to the whodunit part of the book, or some kind of whodunit. I recently just read 2 sort of murder mystery whodunits, which is not something that I read much, but I did enjoy them a lot. And I do find myself a person who just wants to get to the end. When I get to pages that are just about secondary characters, I almost find that I'm skimming the book just to get to the parts where something will be unveiled to me or revealed. Having the focus on the end sort of does take away from the enjoyment of reading for me, because I'm just plowing through the book to get to the end. Whereas if I already knew the end, maybe I would pick up more of the story along the way. So there has been some research into spoilers. A 2013 Atlantic article talked about studies that showed, I'm going to do a little bit of reading here, the science of spoilers and why spoilers are so terrible. They concluded that it's hard to be transported by a story, to actually fall into a story and just be swept away by it when you know what's coming, because it takes the make-believe out of the story. And we naturally are drawn to make-believe. And we also, when we're really wrapped up in make-believe, we sort of fuzz the lines between what's reality and what's not. It is easy to sort of get lost into this world, but if you know what's coming, or you know what plot twist is coming, it's a constant reminder that the story we're reading isn't real, it's fiction, and we're going to get a big reveal at some point. And so it sort of takes away the magic of being swept away by a story. An opposing argument to that would say that knowing how a story ends doesn't really deter us from enjoying a story. And we see this a lot in nonfiction, of course, because in a nonfiction book, it's the telling of a true story that has presumably already been wrapped up in some way. And I'm thinking of examples by Eric Larson, who wrote, who I just love his books. He wrote a book about a serial killer at the Chicago World's Fair. He wrote a terrorizing book about Nazi Germany. And he wrote a book about the sinking of an ocean liner that killed 1,200 people. These stories read like fiction. There's really nothing surprising in these stories. He's probably done a bit more research than you or I or the average person would do, but he's not unveiling a giant twist at the end. But knowing how the stories turn out in these books doesn't take away from our enjoyment of them. In fact, it almost gets us more engaged in the telling of the story, because his magic isn't in the storytelling. So not necessarily spoil a story to know how it's going to turn out. If it did, we wouldn't read nonfiction. And another point is that if knowing the endings of stories affected us that much that we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't rewatch movies over and over. We wouldn't reread books. As far as movies go, spoilers don't really ruin our experience with movies like James Bond or Mission Impossible, where the hero never dies. That's a good example. You don't necessarily know what's coming as far as the plot goes, and there aren't a lot of twists in movies like that because they're very formulaic. But you know James Bond is going to live at the end of the movie, because for the last 25 movies, that's what's happened. So there's no big twist. I guess a big twist would be if James Bond died. So that's something maybe the movie producers can think about. Researchers at the university, there's Susan, hi Susan. Researchers at the University of San Diego identified what they called the spoiler paradox. And their research showed that knowing the end of a story before you read it doesn't take away from your experience of the story. Instead, it actually makes you enjoy it more. And the reason is that it gives you context to the details of the story, and it helps us make predictions about the actions and behaviors of other people, which we naturally really love to do. When we know what's coming, we're able to follow along and understand the story better, just like we talked about earlier with the Atlantic article. If you've ever reread a book, you can absolutely understand this. My example of this is that my enjoyment of Pride and Prejudice doesn't diminish with every reading that I do of it. It enhances my love of the book, and it's because with every reading, the book is more layered for me. I can pay attention to smaller characters that I might not have noticed in my first or second reading. I am more appreciative of the humor that I might have missed on my first or second reading when I was paying attention to larger plot points. So don't let the fact that you know something about a book or feel that it's been spoiled for you deter you from reading a book. It might actually enhance your enjoyment. So where do I fall with spoilers? I still don't want them. That's why I generally avoid book reviews, although book reviewers are very excellent, I will say, at providing synopses of books without giving away major plot points. There's a woman named Anne Bogle who, from our very first chat, I think, I talked about her podcast, What Should I Read Next? And she is very adamant that one should never read the flap description of a book, the inner flap, because she feels that it's the flap that gives you those couple of points that probably you didn't need to know going in, because those are sort of the things that ruin a book. It's hard not to read the flap because you do want to get a little bit of an idea of what a book is about. There are books just by title that I know I want to read, or by cover. I've seen them, I know I want to read them, and I will start a book and I have no idea what it's about, but for some reason I've just heard about it or seen it. I think that's a better way for me to find a book than going by inner flap reading. So that said, maybe I'll read the article about the Rebecca soundtrack score before I read the book. Maybe I won't, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up our chat at that today. It's a little early, sorry. But I do want to go over our calendar at the library this week. So let's take a look at what we've got going on here. It's July 20th, which is kind of hard to believe that the summer that wasn't is now the summer that's almost half over. Hopefully everybody's staying cool. We've attempted multiple times to try to go swimming in various places, but I think the rest of the world has the same idea. So, and I don't have a good internet connection in here. Let's see. So this week we have a team game night tomorrow night, which you can register for. And Brittany's book club, the Hot Reads for Young Professionals, is meeting on the 23rd, which is Thursday, and I think that's when she's doing the Hate You Give. So that will be great, and you should, I don't know if you should register for that. I don't think you need to register for that, but you can always send Brittany an email if you want, let her know you're going to be there. She'd probably appreciate that. And next week, there are some fun art stuff. Oh, there's a game called Earwax that the teens are going to do. And I'll have to ask Amanda what that's all about. And then there's going to be a recycled plastic bottle art night, which sounds fun. Lots of Zoom events. And we hope to see you soon, and hope you're making good use of contactless pickup at winpublib.org. Circulation staff is working so hard to package up your books and get them out to you. They're on the cart out there. There's some kids' activities stuff. Might all be gone by now. They were here when I got here this morning. But keep reading. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday.